All right, so for those of you that I haven't worked with, my name is Joe Alberti, and I'm one of the instructional designers within the Department of Cyber Learning. So you've probably worked with Stephanie. So Stephanie and I work very closely together, hand in hand. So what we're going to talk about today is the AI features that you could use within Blackboard. And there's some really fun, really cool things that you could do with it. I do like to keep my presentations, these trainings, kind of more laid back. So if you do have questions, please don't feel like you're interrupting. Feel free to unmute. You can ask any questions, as many questions as you'd like. If you're more comfortable using the chat feature, I do have that open. Anything that I'm not able to get to, Jessica Chill, our Director of Cyber Learning, is joining me here today, and she'll be able to answer any questions you have there as well. So I'd like to begin just kind of giving you some background information on more or less the safety that the AI built into Blackboard is using. And Blackboard partnered with Microsoft, primarily because of Microsoft has a long-standing commitment to really the ethical use of AI. And Blackboard came up with these trustworthy AI principles that they have. So we'll just kind of briefly go through these. I have included a link here that you can refer back to if you wanted to really dive into these principles and the safety behind this and learn more about it. But really the most important one, in my opinion, is going to be the first one. And that is you are always in control of anything that goes into your Blackboard course. Right, so you're going to prompt the AI functionality in Blackboard. It's going to give you an output. That output you're going to be able to review. You're going to be able to edit anything on that output. So really anything that goes into your course, you're going to have still 100% control over. The next principle is fairness, and that's really where they want to try to minimize the bias that goes into the AI systems. So they're taking measures to ensure that the output is valid, it's reliable. But again, all of this filters back to that first principle of you're in charge of all of this, really. So nothing is going to get put in your course that you haven't thoroughly reviewed at this point. Now I'm going to talk about privacy, security, and safety really all together. All the AI systems that we're looking at are going to be safe, secure. Everything is going to be private, right? So all the prompts that you enter into Blackboard's AI, anything you reprompt it with, none of that information is going to be shared out with open AI systems. It's not going to be shared out with other Blackboard clients. Everything is going to be housed in our instance, YSU's instance of Blackboard. Okay, so now that we've kind of talked about some of the principles behind what Blackboard is trying to accomplish, really what can AI do for you in your courses? And we can use AI to help us create our course framework. Right, our learning modules, really our course map, essentially, in some terms, as far as where we want to go with the course. We could use AI to generate images, create test questions, some different ways to increase that student engagement through discussion boards, journals, and lastly, we could use it to generate rubrics for us to go along with our assignments. And I'll tell you, I've played around with all of these, and the rubrics, it's quite impressive what it can do for us and how clear and detailed the output of these rubrics are. So this is primarily what we're going to focus on today. Before we jump into it, are there any questions on how Blackboard is partnered with Microsoft to build this integration with AI, or really what we'll be discussing today? Okay, so what I want to do is I want you to kind of picture yourself here, sitting in your office, maybe got a nice cup of coffee here going, and all of a sudden this option is presented where you have the option to create an online course, right? So where do we start with this? Do we have a syllabus? Maybe we do, maybe we don't. So maybe we're starting with just an idea on what this course is and where it could go. Or maybe we do have that syllabus with a course description, but that's really all we have. So we have nothing else to go off of to build this online course. So where do we start? And this is really where AI could come into play and really help you along the way. So we have this really nice course description here. And maybe, again, this is something that we wrote, or this was the course description that was given to us through the syllabus. Well, let's jump into Blackboard. So when I've logged into Blackboard, again, I'm just going to click my courses tab. I'm going to locate that course I want to open. And here we go. This probably looks pretty familiar to a class or to a template that you've opened before when you first either started developing a course or a course was given to you and you haven't added any content to it yet. So we have this course description. Let's see where we could go with this, right? Let's see what AI will suggest for our course framework, right? Which would be our learning modules. I like to think of this more or less as like a course map. This is kind of where we're going to go throughout the course. And again, we can always edit and change anything on here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I just copied that course description. And I'm going to click this plus sign. And what we're going to do is we're going to say, let's try to auto-generate modules and get some ideas flowing here on where we could go with this. So what I'm going to do is I have this description box. I'm just going to take that course description and I'm going to paste it right in here. Now we'll scroll down and I can decide really kind of how I want my modules to be named. Do I want to call them week 1, week 2? Do I want to call them module 1, unit 2? This is the nice part on having that ability to customize this to your teaching style. I like week, so I'm going to go with week. I'm also going to prompt this to give me the images to go along with my learning modules here. Now what I can do is I can adjust the complexity based maybe on the level of this course. Is this an introductory level course or is this an upper division course? Well, let's say for our example here, this is going to be more of an this will be more of a higher level, upper division course. The only thing we're going to do here is we're going to specify the learning modules, the number that we want. So let's say we're going to create a 7-week online course. I could keep this at 7. Maybe I want to bump it up to 10, see what I get, maybe get rid of a few ideas. You know, these are all things that you have the ability of doing. Now notice we made some changes over to the description area here, but nothing's changed on the right-hand side. So any changes we make here, what we're going to do is we're just going to click generate. And when we click that, this is essentially reprompting AI to give me 7 new learning modules based off my description with the complexity set a little bit higher here. Now notice, because we chose to do the weekly or week 1, week 2, instead of modules or units, it automatically comes in with that name. Right, we could see it's giving us images on some of these, but not all. So let's go ahead and let's try to generate it again. Right, and see if we do get those images to go along with all of our learning modules. Here we go, it's bringing it back in. Now notice again, it's giving me the week, the title, and a really nice description on what we possibly could cover or create for this week. Now what I could do is I could go down to my learning modules and I can decide which ones I want to bring in. Now, as you can see, technology is never perfect, so it's not really cooperating with me as well as I would hope it would with these weeks 3 through 7, but no problem, because I'm going to show you here how we can fix this. So what we're going to do is we're just going to check the boxes for the learning modules that we want to bring in. Now, these are going to come in as blank learning modules, but this is where I say this is more or less giving us our map or our topics to come in. Once we've checked those boxes, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and say, let's add all 7. Right, and when we do that, we can see it does come in. Now notice these ones here that didn't want to cooperate with me don't have that image to go along with it. Right, but let's say that we really like these images and we want to use these. This is also where it comes into play, back to that very first principle, that you're in charge of everything that we bring in here. Right, so if I want to rework week 3, for example, maybe I want to change a description. I could always come over here, click these 3 dots and click Edit. Right, and I could change this description, add anything I'd like to it. I also am going to say, let's add that image in here. So I'm just going to click this image card. And I'll have a couple options. Now, what I like is I like the images from Unsplash, which are copyright-free images for us to use. And what you could do is we could type in just a brief description. Right, so maybe we're going to talk about coding here on this one. Right, now we get some images that are specific to our learning module topic. So I could click that first image. Right, let's say I want to go with that one. We'll say next. And now it's going to ask me if I want to reposition anything. If I wanted to pull this over, move it this way. I think it's pretty good right there. We'll save it. And once that processes, we'll just save it again. And now I have my image to go along with my week 3 learning module. Now we can continue working through weeks 4, week 5, really editing any of these descriptions, adding images. Maybe I want to move things around. So maybe I want to talk about engaging or designing engaging coding activities after I talk about integrating coding across the curriculum. So I could always take these modules, I could drag them around, right? It's really up to me how I want to move forward with this. Now, please keep in mind, even though this is giving us a really good learning module, a title, image, and description, when I click on these learning modules, they're still going to be blank, right? So it's not going to build any content or anything for us within these learning modules, right? That's still going to be up to us to bring in all that information. This is, as I said earlier, more or less just giving us a map or roadmap to go with on an idea for this course. Okay, so before we look at jumping in and adding some content and some interactions in here, does anybody have any questions on how I went into this Blackboard course and really just created this framework for us? Okay, well, what I'm going to do is, now that we have this framework built, I'm going to jump into a learning module and we're going to build some content in here, just like we typically would, right? With our content, importing it in. And then once we have some content built in here, now we'll look at building some of these really cool interactions that we could do with AI. So I'm just going to expand this learning module. And what we're going to do is click the plus sign, and we're going to create a document. We're just going to name this document. Okay, we'll come over and we'll say, yeah, let's make this document, excuse me, visible to students. And now we're just going to add some content to it. Okay, so we have just a quick lead in here. We want them to review this PowerPoint, and there's going to be a short quiz at the end of the week discussing the information in this PowerPoint. So now all I'm going to do is really click this attachment icon and go ahead and grab that PowerPoint from wherever it is I have it saved to. So we're just going to grab this one. We're going to bring it in, save it. So we have our PowerPoint in here. Okay, so we have this really good PowerPoint built in here for the students to go ahead. They could view it right here within the preview window, or they could download it. Right here, they could go ahead, they could read through the information here that's on the PowerPoint. And now let's go ahead and now let's take a look at actually creating a quiz based on the information that's in this PowerPoint. So we have our PowerPoint here. I'm going to go right below this PowerPoint. And we're going to click the plus sign. And again, we'll select create. And this time I'm going to select test. Now I could go ahead and I could name this test. Come over again, we'll say, let's make this visible to students. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click the plus sign under create your assessment. And we are going to auto-generate questions. Now, just like you saw me do with the course description I had, right? I could type into this description field, I could paste something in here. A newer feature that came out over the summer is the ability to select content items. So I'm going to click this. And now what I'm going to do is click on content. And we added that PowerPoint in week 1. So let's check the box for week 1. And we're going to select the item. Now, if you look under question type, I have the ability of changing the question types on how I want. So if I want all multiple choice, true, false, I have the ability of doing that. Or I could keep it on Inspire Me. And that's going to give me kind of a mix of all the different question types. So I'll leave it on Inspire Me for now. Now I could come over and I could change the complexity. Maybe since we're just starting out, it's week 1, maybe I want to take that complexity down a little bit. And I can also set the number of questions. So let's take this all the way up to 10. Now, again, we've made some changes here. So what we're going to do is we're going to click Generate. So as you can see, what's happening right now is the AI is looking at the information in that PowerPoint. It's processing it, and it's really, at this point in time, creating us the 10 multiple choice questions, or I'm sorry, you left on Inspire Me, the 10 different question types that this is going to have. Okay, so yeah, so here we go. So it did generate the question types. I had a question come in, will this work with a PDF or a Keynote? I've tried it with a PDF and it did work. I've never tried it with a Keynote, but given that it's working off of a PowerPoint and a PDF, I would imagine, yes, it would work off a Keynote presentation, but to say yes with 100% certainty, it's something I would have to test first. But as you can see, this did bring in my questions here. So if I want to use these questions, I could say, you know what, yeah, I'll use this one. It did mark the correct answer for me. I can continue to go down. And select. I like on these ones here where it does give you an example of a correct response. Here'd be a matching question. So we could go down and we could choose the questions that we want to bring in. Let's say we want to bring all these in. I'm going to go ahead and say add. And now it brings all those questions into my quiz, worth 1 point each. Now, again, just like we talked about with that very first principle of humans are in control, at any point in time, I can click the ellipses here and I can edit any one of these questions. I could change the point total, and I could do that for any question. If I get one where I'm like, you know what, I really don't want to use this one, I kind of changed my mind, I can always go ahead, delete that question out of here, and really kind of tailor this to meet my students' needs and my learning outcomes for this particular assessment. Once we have all the questions in here, I could go ahead and I could click my gear icon. And really, this is going to be the same settings that you would set on any test, whether you created it, you used AI to create it, or you partnered with our department to bring it in from a Word document. Okay, so once we're all set here, we could just click Save. And now come back to our learning module. right? So just by adding that PowerPoint, excuse me, just by adding that PowerPoint into the course, I was very quickly able to get a quick kind of learning, really knowledge check for my students, a quick quiz built in here. Right, does anybody have any questions on bringing in content to your learning module or using that content to create a quick quiz or test? All right, you guys are making this easy on me today. Well, let's go ahead then and let's look at some different interactions then. So we have a quick quiz in here for a knowledge check. Maybe we want to have a discussion board in here as well for the students to be able to share some ideas back and forth with each other. Okay, what I'm going to do is decide where in this learning module I want to build this discussion board. So for this example, let's say we want to put our discussion board under the quiz. Again, I'm going to click the plus sign and go back to create. This time, I'm going to come down and select discussion under participation and engagement. Now, when I do that, if you've created a discussion board before, right, it's just like we normally would see here. We can name the discussion and put in our prompts. Or we can actually auto-generate a discussion through the AI feature. So here we'll click auto-generate. And just like you saw before, what I'm going to do is really just bring in a prompt. Again, I could use that select course items or that content picker to go pick whatever content I have in the course if I wanted to base the topic of the discussion board off of that. Now, this is where it's going to change a little bit. Here, I could choose my cognitive level, right? And this is basically going to be the complexity, right? So I could keep it on apply, create, or I could take it up to evaluate, make it a little bit more difficult. I've played with this several different times, several different ways, giving it different descriptions, trying to see what it would do. And every time I left it on Inspire Me, it actually would give me 3 different cognitive levels to choose from. So it's a really cool feature to play around with in here. Again, I could kind of change that complexity level a bit. And I'm going to ask it to generate me the discussion title. Now I'm just going to come down and click generate. And this is going to generate me 3 different options that I could choose from. And notice it's going to give me 3 different cognitive levels to choose from. So here I can read through and kind of figure out which one fits best with my topic for this week. And maybe I want to go ahead and use this bottom one, for example. So we'll select the radio button for that bottom example. And now we'll click add. Now, again, we have that ability of changing anything we want in here. We still can add a file. We still can add a link in here. So really, we have the ability of anything we want to do like we typically would in our discussion boards. Now, the one thing that this is missing through the AI generated version headphone wire got in the way on that one. Okay, so here, now we've added in the information here where we're going to ask them to please reply, or please have your initial discussion post done by Wednesday of that week. And we want them to reply to at least 3 other people by Sunday. Once we have everything in here, set, ready to go, we're just going to go ahead and we're going to save it. And once that's saved, we'll come over to our gear icon. And this is where we're going to go ahead and we're going to set up all the different settings that we could use in here. So we'll say, you know what, let's go ahead, let's grade this discussion. And let's make this discussion worth, we'll say 15 points. Once we have everything set, we'll go ahead, we'll save it. And now our students can come in when it's time for them to go ahead and create their initial discussion post and then reply to the 3 others. Now, the one thing that I always like to point out are some different lessons I've learned throughout developing the courses and teaching courses as well. And I used to put dates in here. Right, so the initial post, I'd put a Wednesday and I'd have the date in there. And then Sunday and I'd have the date in there. And what I ended up finding was when I would bring that course forward, as carefully as I would go through it, every once in a while I'd miss one little outlier in there for a date and it wouldn't match up and it would cause some confusion with the students. So I ended up, because with the online courses that I've developed and taught, I've said my modules, my weekly modules open Monday at 6 a.m. and conclude Sunday at 11:59 p.m. So every week is going to be Wednesday for my discussion post, that initial prompt, and Wednesday for the replies, or Sunday for the replies rather. So by adding in the days of the week, I actually have saved myself a little bit of time when I bring the course forward, and a little bit of headaches as well by not missing those dates in there and confusing my students. Okay, so adding in this discussion, again, a great way to build that interaction, that collaboration in an online course. And you can see how quickly and easily we were able to do that with the AI feature to auto-generate this discussion. Okay, does anybody have any questions on creating the discussion here for our students? All right, let's go ahead then and let's jump into our next topic, and that's going to be creating an assignment and creating a rubric, a grading rubric to go along with that assignment. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm just going to grab a quick prompt for an assignment. Okay, this is just things I pre-staged beforehand. And again, I'm just going to decide where I want to go ahead and I want to put that assignment in here. And the nice part, if you're new to Ultra, the nice part with building within Ultra, which is very different than Blackboard Original, is here I could choose where I want to build different items. In Blackboard Original, I would always drop it at the bottom, and we had the ability of dragging and dropping it into different places. But in Blackboard Ultra, we can actually decide where. So I'm going to put this assignment right underneath that PowerPoint that we built. So we'll do the plus sign. Again, we'll do create. And this time we'll do assignment. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click the auto generate assignment, very similar to discussion board. And here we could type our prompt, or we could grab some directions. Maybe we had this in a PDF or a Word document. So maybe we want to grab a quick description out of that Word document, that PDF. We want to bring it in here. Or again, we could use the content picker to go and select items in the course. Here, I just went ahead and pasted a description in here for us. Again, just like you saw with the discussion board, I could choose my desired cognitive level, or again, leave it on Inspire Me. And I could adjust my complexity. Now we'll go ahead, again, we'll click Generate. And this is analyzing our description and our desired cognitive level and complexity. And now it's going to give us 3 different options, right? With 3 different cognitive levels. And we could review these at this point and decide, what do we want to bring into the course? And maybe for this example, we'll go ahead and we'll bring in this middle option here. Now we'll go ahead and we'll click Add. And again, we'll bring this into our course. And here we could always update our title, right? Or we can update our directions. Right, again, we can add images, we can add files, we can add links. Now, again, the one thing that I always do, even though we have a clear schedule in our syllabus, the one thing I always like to do is just provide a little reminder here. I don't know why I keep bumping that 6. Must be something with my headphone wire there. But we'll go ahead and now we'll save it. Now I can come over again, just like with any assignment, click these settings and go through, and I can change those point values and add any other settings that I typically would for a normal assignment that I created. We'll select Save. And again, I can come up and make this visible to students, or set my release conditions to have it appear on a certain date and cut access to the assignment after the due date, for example. So now when we go back to our learning module, now we can see here, everything is really starting to shape up pretty nicely, right? We have some content added in here. Now we have an assignment, we have a short quiz, and a discussion board to go along with everything. All right, are there any questions with using the AI generator to create these different types of interactions or assessments? Okay, well, good news is here is I'm going to give you guys an extra little special piece for today, and that is actually going to be a new feature that we just enabled within Blackboard production today, and that's the AI conversation tool. So this is now available in all of your Blackboard courses, and it really is kind of a fun way to allow the students to have really a conversation back and forth with AI and explore their thoughts on really a specific topic. Now, again, even though this is called AI conversation, this is not meant to confirm, deny any student input. So it's not going to really tell them anything on, give away any correct answers or processes or anything like that. But it's more of a guide to help the students throughout their thinking process, get really from point A to point B. So let's take a look at this in Blackboard. And this one, we'll put at the bottom here. So here we'll go again to create. And now we're going to scroll down and notice under participation and engagement, we now have the AI conversation tool. So we'll go ahead, we'll click that option. We'll give it a quick title. And now we'll go ahead and we'll make this visible to users. So now what we'll do is we're just going to put in a quick question or a prompt. Now, the other cool thing that we can do is we can actually give our AI here a little bit of a persona, right? So maybe we want to call them we can call him Pete the Penguin. And we can always go ahead and we can always grab an image. So what we'll do is let's go ahead and we'll grab Pete here. Yeah, it works for me. We'll say next. And I think that position looks good there, and we'll save it. So now we've given our AI that our students are going to have this back and forth with more or less of a persona. And you can give it quality personality traits, occupations. By default, it's going to come in with the role of supportive. Again, this was just enabled today. So we are in the early phases of testing this and trying different ways of using it and see what different outputs we get. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to leave it on supportive for our example today. And just like you saw with everything else that we've done, we have the ability of changing that complexity. And now we're going to save it. So now, how will this work with our students? What are they going to see when they come in and interact with this? Well, now from the discussion board, or from the learning module rather, they'll open the learning module, scroll down, click on the conversation here, and I'm gonna have to click preview chat just to get a better get a better idea what the students are gonna see. Obviously, this is something they wouldn't have to do. What they're gonna see is right here. What is one fear you have when planning different technologies into your class? And you can see the persona that we have here for AI is going to introduce themselves and just give kind of a blanket statement. So now we're just going to put just a basic answer to the question or prompt, and we're going to click send. And when we do that, we can see, right, our Pete the Penguin is going to think about that, and it's going to come back with a question, right? And it's going to say, okay, so we're fearful that implementing some technology into the class could really increase the likelihood of cheating. Well, now it's going to say, what do you think are some strategies that we could use to prevent cheating? Right, so here's maybe one idea that I would say to go back with. And now we'll send that. So now, again, this is going to analyze what I said, think about it. And again, it's not going to tell me if I'm correct, if I'm incorrect. It's going to look at what I said and really kind of guide me maybe to go a little bit further. Right, so I can continue this going back and forth, and maybe we want to say, I want you to have at least 5 responses to the AI conversation tool. Right, so again, I just want to bring this in today as an introduction. Again, we've just enabled this today in our system. This is still very, very new to us. So we're still trying to figure out how we can, different use cases for this. We still want to go through a lot of different testing and see what we can get it to do. So we should have some more options for you, coming up in the future. But does anybody have any questions on the AI conversation tool? Okay. Well, the last item that we were going to discuss today is how we can use AI to help us generate some images. So let's go back to our PowerPoint here. Right, and now I want to edit this content. And maybe after I thought about it, I looked at this and said, this page is a little dry. I want to add something to it and kind of spice it up a little bit here. So what we could do is we could come in and we can actually, we can actually use AI to generate us this image. So we're going to click image here. And now we get the options, right? We could bring in our own image, maybe something we've created, we've downloaded, it's copyright free, we could use it. So I've showed you how we can use the stock images from Unsplash, right? Which is that copyright free library of images that we could bring in, or we could generate images. So here what we're going to do is we're going to describe an image. And now we're just going to generate it. And this is going to generate us some different options. Now, I've played around with some of these different options. I've tried different prompts. Sometimes, as you can see here, sometimes my options are better using it from the stock images that we get from Unsplash. As you can see, sometimes it brings in kind of cartoonish style images. But again, we have the ability of doing that. So maybe I want to reprompt it with something a little bit more vague. Again, we could prompt this, we could reprompt it as many times as we'd like to get some different outputs. Okay, again, you kind of see it's a little, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. So these are some options that you have. What I like to do is I like to use the unsplash for now. Right, and here I get some different options. Maybe I want to bring in something a little bit more computer-based here, where it shows a little microphone, computer, we have our coffee here, we're ready to go and create a nice, engaging, educational video. So we click next. We'll mark this as decorative and save it. And now we'll save it. And now maybe we have a little bit more of a visually appealing document to come in for the students to see. Now, that's going to actually bring us back to our learning goals here. Just to recap what we've done here, we really either took a course syllabus with a course description, or we wrote our own description and we used AI to help us create that framework with the different learning modules to be able to add our content. Then we used AI to create those different assessments or those student engagement activities that we have with quizzes, discussion boards, assignments, AI conversation. And the one thing I didn't show, we're going to go back and take a look at now here. We got so set on all the different things we could do in here. The one thing that we didn't look at was when we created our assignment. Let's go back into our gear icon and let's take a look at creating that rubric to go along with this assignment. So here we have the add grading rubric. When we click on that, I could create this rubric. If you've ever done this before, this is very time consuming. What I could do is I could click generate. And now I could go ahead, I could change that complexity if I want. I could change the number of columns. I could change the number of rows. Since I did change a few things over here, what I am going to do is click generate again. This is going to generate a new rubric based on my settings that I updated on the left-hand side here. And I can see that it brings in very clear, very detailed instructions. Now, again, we talked about how you're in charge of everything that goes into your course here, even if it was done by AI. You still have the ability of updating anything we see here. Okay, we could change anything here. We can always change our criteria, titles, and the percentage that's going to go along with it. And now we'll go ahead and we'll name this. Save it. And the last thing we'll have to do is find that in our list and add it. Okay, now we have that rubric in there, so we can just save it. Now, the nice part with these rubrics are the students are going to be able to see exactly how they're going to be graded and the expectations of this assignment before they complete it and submit it. And this is actually going to really streamline the grading process as well from the instructor's point of view. Okay, so really quickly, you could see how I created an assignment and got a rubric to go along with it. So let's go back to those learning goals here, which also serve as a good reminder for me, as we could see. And today, again, we looked at that framework, we generated some images, looked at some of the different assessments and engagement tools that are available within the AI features. Now, before we go ahead and we wrap up, I know we're right up against our time. Does anybody have any questions on any of the features that we covered with AI today? Yes, we did record everything, and we are going to share these recordings with all of the attendees, and we'll try to get these up onto our website and make them available to everybody. And again, please feel free to share these recordings with anybody you think would benefit from them.